What is the difference between a post on Threads versus a thread post? A post on Threads might look like this from Chase. There are no other sub-threads beneath the top post. This is a thread post. It has the sort of introduction, then it has some body paragraphs, and then it has a conclusion and a CTA. And that is what we're going to be looking at in this tutorial. In the title of this tutorial, I said how to write a viral thread post. I've written those, and in all likelihood, one of those actually led you into Saints College. But I also wanted to present a more realistic example that isn't necessarily viral, in the hopes that it actually feels more approachable and accessible and more realistic to you. I've written thousands of posts and only a handful of them have gone viral. Point being, my hope is that by going through this post here, that isn't necessarily viral, but it's performed well, it's gotten a good amount of views in the last 14 hours and pretty good engagement, that by using this example, you can see that it is achievable and this is something that you can do. Now, let me know in the comments if you'd rather me go through something viral in another tutorial, and I'm happy to do that. So how do we actually write something like this? I'm going to go through the key elements of it, and I highly encourage you to replicate it with your own content and research. Firstly, starting from the top, this is Andrew Huberman and Adam Grant. Those two names immediately establish authority and credibility, and that is what we want to get in our thread posts, because we don't have that ourselves, or at least nothing like what these two have. So that's point number one. You see those names when you're scrolling through the feed and you're like, oh, I know those guys. They're legit dudes. I'm going to listen to what they say. And if I can present the information in such a way that it's clearly authoritative from these people, then what I'm doing here is piggybacking off their authority and credibility. Then I enhance the credibility of the information I'm about to present by saying they did one of the most popular podcast episodes ever last year. Not only am I talking about very credible dudes, but I'm also saying like their podcast episode together was one of the most popular ever. So that makes people want to read it even more. Now, imagine if I had just said, here are 3 ways that you can unlock your potential and motivation. It's nowhere near as interesting. I haven't made the information that I'm about to present more valuable, even though it's the exact same information. So what I'm doing here in this introduction is I'm framing the value of the information I'm about to present. And that frame is everything. It literally makes or breaks the value of what is to follow. If you were to take away one thing from this entire tutorial, it's that. The way you frame the information in the introduction is everything, and it's the hook. Then I add in a little bit more value to the information by saying I listened to all 3 hours of it and I took notes. Just get everything you need from this thread post. Here are the 3 best insights. And then here is directly telling the reader what they can get by reading the following information. You will unlock your potential and your motivation. They're 2 pretty good things that you'd want to do. One final thing I highly recommend you do in the hook, the framing, the intro, the top post of your thread post is include a picture. I've literally just gone and taken the thumbnail from the podcast episode on YouTube. Now, that would be unethical if I was claiming that all of this information is my own, but here I'm very clearly saying I've literally just synthesized the best parts of the information from the episode. But the main point is include a good image, a thumbnail from the content you've consumed in the post. Why? Put simply, it's a pattern interrupt. What is a pattern interrupt? I scroll down here and I immediately see all of these numbers. That's a pattern interrupt. It interrupts my pattern of scrolling. I scroll down here and I see Bjorn's photo. You're only 1 espresso and 90 minutes of focused deep work away from turning an unproductive day into a productive one. Boom, strong repost. No offense, Bjorn, but it was the photo that made me stop scrolling. It wasn't the caption. I saw the photo first and I'm like, oh, what is he going to say about this? And then I read the caption. My hope is the same thing would apply. If you're scrolling on the feed, you see the thumbnail first, unlocking your potential. Then that makes you go back up it interrupts your pattern of scrolling, and read the information that precedes it. Key point, add that one into your introduction post of the thread post and see how you go. I am G'd up. I'm drinking my pre-workout before my gym, so pardon the energy. Okay. That is our introduction. And remember, just think of this like an essay that you would have learned about in school in terms of the structure of it. And as you can see here, I'm not going to go into the specific points of what is in here, but more the outline of it and the scaffolding, which I highly encourage you to replicate. So what we can see here, numbers and all capitalized subheading. Procrastination isn't about laziness. That helps the key point stand out, obviously. And then notice how I've got dot points, 3 dot points, and I've got white space, a line of space in between each main point. So when you come and see this on the feed, it's very easy to consume. It's digestible. You can skim it. No one's going to read your content as much as you're going to read your content. You need to make it as easy as possible for people to consume. This is how I do that. I encourage you to do the same. And basically, I just do that for the next 2 posts to make 3 sub posts or body paragraphs with the capitalized subheading, 3 dot points explaining the subheading, all separated by white space. And that's it. The final thing I want to say about the body is that make the first body paragraph, so in this case, it's this one here, the best. Why? Because as you're scrolling through the feed, you will see this first post, the introduction, and the first body paragraph. If I'm putting myself in the eyes or shoes of the reader, then I'm thinking, all right, well, this is good, but then the first body paragraph is shit. I'm not going to click on the post to read the other posts. But if the first one is really good, then I'm more inclined to go and click on the post to see the other 2 or 3 and whatever follows. Hopefully that makes sense. That's the body. Then we have the conclusion. Now, my conclusion always ends with some sort of summary, and you can word it as a cheat sheet, depending on how I'm framing the information in the introduction. You can call it an outline, but it is basically a summary. It's a conclusion that is summarizing the main points that you've discussed. Now, what I've done here is I've not actually directly quoted or repeated my main subheadings in the body paragraphs verbatim. Instead, I've made them more conclusive and they actually summarize the content of each body paragraph. What I mean by that is, instead of saying procrastination isn't about laziness, I say procrastination is about avoiding negative emotions. Because this subheading makes you think, oh, what is procrastination about? And then I say it's about avoiding negative emotions. So the reader's already gotten that information now. So I just summarize it in that one point in the summary. Similarly, say unlock your hidden potential in 3 ways. I say what those 3 ways are in the summary. And then I include the link to the source of my information. That's just good practice because you're not conveying this idea that you've just created all this yourself. And I say that clearly in the first post, but it's good to share the link to people who might be interested in getting the original information. Then, so that's a summary and conclusion. Then we have one final part, and the final part is just a CTA, a call to action. This should be to your newsletter, in my case, online community, or if you don't have either of those, a CTA to follow you and to repost. I'm thinking most of you, if you've got a newsletter, great, community, great, but to play it safe, just make it so that your CTA is follow, and then I would actually mention myself at Lennox_Saint. Follow Lennox Saint if you want more posts like this. And then if you learned anything from this, give some value to your audience and repost the first post. All you do is click the share button, copy link, Threads embed the introduction post within this CTA post, repost this post to share it with your followers so they can get value from it as well. And that's the CTA. And that is it. Don't overcomplicate it. Follow this structure and keep repeating it and tweaking it as you want. Those are all the key things you need to do for a great thread post.